I used to have a T-shirt. I still have the T-shirt, but it's years old, and I get in it and I look like this now. The T-shirt shrank, I'm sure, but it's a Gary Larson cartoon. You guys know who Gary Larson is? I think they still run repeats of him. The kind of strange, Far Side. Yeah, the real kind of strange, bizarre kind of humor. And in this one, it's a picture of God at his computer, and there's God, white hair, white beard, flowing robe, and he's sitting in front of his computer. And on the computer screen, there's a picture of a guy just kind of walking down the street. You can tell that there's not a lot of intelligence in this guy's brain just by the picture. He could do that. He's just walking along, and he's unaware of right up above him there's a piano being held by a rope. And if you look closely at God, he's about to hit one of the buttons. And right there where, insert and delete and home and end, those special buttons are, there's a special button there for God. It's called smite. And he's just about to hit the smite button. And then in the T-shirts that they used to make from Gary Larson, they always had in the tucked in area, if you tucked in your T-shirt, there was like a little, postscript. Little tiny thing there, and there's this little squished guy walking along. Vindicate me. We look at God, and sometimes we say, God, smite them. Hit the smite button. Come on, you know what they did. And see, the problem is, sometimes they really did us evil. They really did something bad. Man, they deserve the smite button. They do. They deserve it. The problem is when we're there praying and seeking God and saying, yeah, Lord, hit the smite button, Lord. That's what our heart's feeling. That's what we want to happen. But who are we to pray for God not to forgive someone else when we have received His forgiveness? We want justice for everyone else, but we want mercy and grace for us. Come on, right? That's where he's walking close to the line right there. Twice the Ziphites betrayed David to Saul. The first time, Saul went after David, and David went hiding in the Ziphite area, and they told on him. But Saul was diverted by the Philistines after he found out from the Ziphites where David was. The Philistines came on the scene, and they kind of got diverted. The second time Saul pursued, based on information from the Ziphites, was the time when Saul pursued David, and David at night snuck into the camp and stole Saul's spear and his water jug that were right next to him where he was sleeping. And then the next day said, hey, Abner, you're really doing a good job as a bodyguard. Take a look at whose spear and whose water jug I have. And he said to Saul, why are you after me? I had the chance to kill you last night. Didn't do it. Because I'm not out to kill you. You're out to kill me. And Saul quit chasing him for a while. David would not take vengeance on Saul. And here, even in the midst of these bubbling up of his anger and his desire to see justice on his enemy, you see what he says in verse 4. He says, behold, God is my helper. God is my helper. Saul chased David for about 10 years, somewhere around. Can you imagine someone chasing you with the intent to kill you? And oh, by the way, he happens to be the king of the kingdom, so he's got some resources behind him. And you get the chance to end it all, and you don't take it. Because you can look at Saul and say, yeah, he's doing all these bad things, and yeah, in my heart of hearts, I want some smite on his head. Yet, I'm going to depend on God. I'll just steal his spear. See what he thinks about that. God help us to channel those emotions and those attitudes when we are worked against, to be able to have the attitude that David ultimately had in his actions. Psalm 55 is a very sad psalm because it talks about betrayal by close friends. It doesn't say the exact situation for David that happened, but listen to it. It says, "Give ear to my prayer, O God, and do not hide yourself from my supplication. Attend to me and hear me. I'm restless in my complaint, and I moan noisily because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked. For they bring down trouble upon me, and in wrath they hate me. My heart is severely pained within me, and the terrors of death have fallen upon me. Fearfulness and trembling have come upon me, and horror has overwhelmed me." Now, this is a guy who was pretty tough. You know, as a kid, he went up against Goliath. As a young man, he went against armies all over the place, and he's saying he's so scared his knees are knocking together. "So I said, oh, that I had the wings like a dove, I would fly away and be at rest." Not the wings like an eagle to attack, but the wings like a dove to peacefully get out of town. David is really shook by this situation, whatever it was. "Indeed, I would wander far off and remain in the wilderness, Selah. I would hasten my escape from the windy storm and the tempest." Here it comes. "Destroy, O Lord. Divide their tongues. For I have seen violence and strife in the city. Day and night they go around on its walls. Iniquity and trouble are also in the midst of it. Destruction is in its midst. Oppression and deceit do not depart from its streets." And here's the heartbreak. "For it is not an enemy who reproaches me. Then I could bear it. Nor is it one who hates me who has exalted himself against me. Then I could hide from him. But it was you, a man my equal, my companion, and my acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together and walked to the house of God in the throng." Have you ever been seriously betrayed by a close friend? There's not many other things that hurt as deeply. I haven't been subject to it as much as some pastors that I know, but ministries are a place where it happens a lot, unfortunately. Someone within a church decides they should be the pastor. Someone within a church decides to cause division. And someone who's been a close confidant, a close person, suddenly becomes a horrible enemy. Whether it be in ministry, whether it be in your personal life, there's not much. There are other things, in my opinion, but there's not much that hurts more than that. Deeply. And you're constantly reminded of it. And that's where David is. And he says it outright. He says, you know what, I could take this if it was from the Philistines or the Edomites. But man, we used to hang out together. We used to go to church together. We used to worship the Lord together. And now this is what you're doing to me? Wow.